The 1980s would take a little detour to the obscure with its ghost films with The Entity, a horror film based on the novel of the same name by Frank De Felitta. It stars Barbara Hershey as a woman tormented by an invisible assailant. Despite being filmed and planned for a release in 1981, the movie was not released in worldwide cinema until September 1982, followed by the United States in February of 1983. The movie begins as a single mother, Clara Morin, as played by Barbara Hershey, is violently raped in her room by an invisible assailant. A subsequent episode of poltergeist activity causes her to flee with her children to the home of her friend Cindy. The following year would then give us one of the most famous films in ghost and cinematic history with Poltergeist, a 1982 American supernatural horror film directed by the legendary Tobe Hooper. Steven Spielberg wrote and produced it, but had a clause in his contract to prevent him from directing another movie while he made E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Therefore, Hooper was selected to direct based on his work on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is the first and most successful entry in the Poltergeist film series, set in a California suburban home. The plot focuses on a family whose home is invaded by a malevolent ghost that abducts the family's youngest daughter. The same year, an American and overseas venture would produce The House Where Evil Dwells, a 1982 American-Japanese horror film that stars Edward Albert, Susan George, and Doug McClure about an American family that moves into a reputed haunted house in the hills of Japan. It was directed by Kevin Connor and produced by Martin B. Cohen. It's based upon the novel by James Hardiman and turned into the screenplay by Robert Soski. Keeping with our direction in Japanese cinema, our final entry is Spirit d'Amour, a 1983 Hong Kong supernatural romance film directed by Ringo Lam and starring Alan Tam, Soo Chun-mi, and Cecilia Yip. Shot in modern-day Hong Kong, the film centers on a protagonist, Ku Chi Mang, a helpless insurance investigator who, while investigating the case of a beautiful girl who supposedly committed suicide, begins being haunted by her spirit and eventually falls in love with her. Based on the original story by Raymond Wong, Spirit d'Amour is credited as the very first film directed by Hong Kong director Ringo Lam, better known for his later 1987 film City on Fire, starring Chow Yun-fat. Released in Hong Kong on December 15, 1983, the film took a total of Hong Kong's $14.1 million at the box office and gained one nomination at the 1985 Hong Kong Film Festival Awards. Join us next time as our travels cover the more popular ghost films in cinematic culture.